My daughter Sarah stood in my Malibu beach house, holding a folder full of sale documents, her face flushed with excitement and greed. "Mom, I sold the house. We close next week. I already have the deposit. $1.5 million. Can you believe it?" I looked at her from my chair on the deck, the Pacific Ocean stretching endlessly behind me, and I said the words I've been practicing for weeks. "Sarah, you didn't sell my house. You sold a house that belongs to an irrevocable trust, a house I no longer own. Your sale contract is void." The color drained from her face. "What?" "You committed fraud, sweetheart, and now you're going to face the consequences." My name is Diana. I'm 72 years old, and I'm about to tell you how I outsmarted my own daughter when she tried to steal my home right out from under me. But let me back up, because this story doesn't start with a fraudulent sale. It starts 6 months earlier, when I first realized my only child was planning to betray me. I've been living alone in my Malibu beach house for 5 years, ever since my husband passed. It was our dream home, bought 30 years ago when property was still affordable, now worth over $1.5 million. The house had floor-to-ceiling windows facing the ocean, a wraparound deck where I had my morning coffee, 3 bedrooms, though I only used one. It was too much space for one person, sure, but it was mine, my memories, my sanctuary, my home. Sarah knew the house would be hers someday. I'd told her as much. "When I'm gone, this all comes to you," I'd said during one of her rare visits. I thought that would give her peace of mind. Instead, it gave her ideas. It started small, little comments during our monthly phone calls. "Mom, have you thought about downsizing? That house is so big for just you." "Mom, wouldn't it be easier if you moved closer to me? I could help you more." "Mom, beach property values are at an all-time high. Maybe now's the time to sell and enjoy the money while you can." I'd brush her off. "I'm comfortable here, Sarah. I'm not ready to leave." But she kept pushing, and the comments got more aggressive. Then she started asking about my power of attorney. Years ago, when my husband was sick, I'd signed a POA giving Sarah the ability to make decisions for me if I became incapacitated. It was standard estate planning, responsible, something every parent should do. Except Sarah saw it differently. She saw it as a key to a vault. "Mom, do you still have that POA we set up? I should have a copy, just in case something happens." "I have it somewhere," I'd say vaguely. "Well, find it. Send me a copy. It's important that I have access to all your legal documents. For your protection." For my protection. That phrase started appearing in every conversation. "Mom, I think I should be added to your bank accounts. For your protection." "Mom, maybe I should start handling your bills. For your protection." "Mom, we should really list the house now before the market shifts. For your protection." I'm 72, not senile. I knew what she was doing. But knowing and proving are different things. I needed to be sure. So I set a trap. I told Sarah I was going on a cruise for 2 weeks. Mediterranean tour. I've always wanted to see Greece. "That sounds nice, Mom. You deserve it. I'll leave my house keys with the neighbor, in case of emergency." "Actually, why don't you leave them with me? I'm your daughter. I should be the emergency contact." "The neighbor is closer. Mom, I insist. Family should handle these things." She drove all the way from San Diego to Malibu to get those keys. 2 hours each way. For keys I'd told her were just in case of emergency. Then I canceled the cruise. Told Sarah I'd canceled, but that I was still traveling, visiting an old friend in Arizona. And I stayed home, watching, waiting. 3 days into my trip, Sarah showed up at my house. I watched from my upstairs window as she let herself in with my keys. Watched as she walked through each room, taking photos with her phone. Photos of the view, the layout, the finishes. She was staging it, getting ready to list it. She pulled out a notebook and started measuring rooms, writing down dimensions, acting like a realtor preparing a property for sale. She spent 2 hours there, never called me, never mentioned the visit. The next day I got an email notification. Sarah had requested a copy of the deed to my house from the county recorder's office, using my power of attorney authorization. That's when I knew. She wasn't planning to wait until I died. She was planning to sell my house while I was still alive, without my knowledge or consent. She thought the POA gave her that power. She was wrong. POAs have limits, and selling someone's primary residence without explicit permission isn't covered. But she was going to try anyway. And once she'd taken the deposit, once she'd signed contracts, the legal mess would be enormous. Even if I won in court, the damage would be done. I needed to act fast. I needed protection she couldn't circumvent. I called my estate attorney, Mr. Evans, explained everything. Diana, I'm so sorry. This is unfortunately common. Adult children viewing their parents as obstacles between them and an inheritance. Can she really sell my house using that POA? Legally? No. The POA doesn't grant that authority. But if she finds a buyer and signs contracts, you'll be stuck in litigation. It'll be expensive, time-consuming, and emotionally devastating. How do I stop her? You need to make the house unsellable. Transfer it to an entity she can't access. Like what? An irrevocable trust. He explained it to me. An irrevocable trust is exactly what it sounds like. Once you create it and transfer assets into it, you can't take them back. The trust owns the assets. You can be the beneficiary, meaning you still get to use the property, still get the income from it, but you're not the owner anymore. And if you're not the owner, nobody can force you to sell. Not even someone with your power of attorney. But Sarah would still inherit after I die, right? I asked. Not necessarily. You choose the beneficiaries when you set up the trust. It can be Sarah, or it can be someone else, a charity, a friend, anyone you want. What if I don't want it to be Sarah anymore? Mr. Evans was quiet for a moment. Then it doesn't have to be. We spent the next week setting it up, creating the trust, transferring the house, making everything legal and ironclad. The trust bought my house from me for $1.5 million, fair market value. The money went into an investment account in my name. The house went into the trust, with me as the primary beneficiary during my lifetime. I could still live there, still use it, but I didn't own it anymore. The trust did. And Sarah's power of attorney? It had exactly zero authority over trust assets. A month after we finalized everything, Sarah made her move. She used the POA to sign a sale contract for my house, found a buyer willing to pay $1.5 million, negotiated terms, accepted a deposit. She thought she'd pulled off the perfect crime. She hadn't. Because you can't sell property you don't own. And I didn't own that house anymore. The trust did. Which brings us back to that moment. Sarah standing in my living room, holding worthless contracts, realizing she'd just committed fraud. Let me take you back further, to the moment I first signed that power of attorney, because understanding how Sarah got her hands on it matters. It was 7 years ago. My husband, James, had just been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. The doctors gave him 6 months. He lasted 4. During those 4 months, everything was chaos. Hospital visits, treatment decisions, legal paperwork, financial planning. We were trying to organize a lifetime of assets while he was dying. Our estate attorney at the time, not Mr. Evans, this was before, suggested we both sign POAs naming Sarah. Standard procedure, he said. If something happens to either of you, Sarah can step in and make decisions. Medical, financial, whatever's needed. It's just smart planning. We signed them. James signed one for Sarah. I signed one for Sarah. We were thinking about worst-case scenarios where we couldn't communicate our wishes. We were thinking about comas and strokes and emergencies. We weren't thinking about our daughter using the document to steal from us. James died in December. The grief nearly killed me. For months, I barely functioned. Sarah helped, I'll give her that. She handled the funeral arrangements, filed the insurance claims, sorted through James's belongings. I was grateful, genuinely grateful. My daughter was being a daughter. Except she was also making copies of everything, learning where all my accounts were, getting access to my financial life. At the time, I thought she was being responsible, helpful, preparing to support me in my old age. I didn't realize she was preparing to exploit me. After James died, I got better, slowly. I started going out again, seeing friends, finding joy in small things. Morning walks on the beach, coffee at my favorite cafe, book club every other Tuesday. I wasn't incapacitated, wasn't incompetent. I was just older and alone. But to Sarah, I became something else, a liability, an asset that needed managing. The first real warning sign came about a year after James passed. Sarah came to visit for the weekend. We had a nice time, or so I thought. Walked on the beach, had dinner at a seafood restaurant, talked about her life, her job, her struggles. She mentioned she was having financial trouble. Her company was restructuring. She might lose her job. She had credit card debt, a car payment, rent in expensive San Diego. "I'll help you," I said immediately. "How much do you need?" "No, Mom, I can't take your money." "You're my daughter. Of course you can." "Well, 5,000 would really help, just to get caught up." I wrote her a check that day, $5,000, happy to help. 2 months later, she needed another 3,000, car repairs. 3 months after that, 6,000, medical bills. Then 4,000, then 8,000, then 10,000. Over 2 years, I gave her nearly $60,000. And I didn't mind. She's my daughter. I had the money. What else was I going to do with it? But then the requests stopped being requests. "Mom, I need to borrow $20,000 for a down payment on a condo." "Sarah, that's a lot of money. I'll pay you back, I promise. I just need help getting started. Once I have the condo, my rent savings will let me pay you back monthly." I hesitated. 20,000 was significant, but she was my daughter. I gave it to her. She never paid back a cent, never mentioned it again. When I brought it up 6 months later, she acted confused. "I thought that was a gift, Mom. You said you wanted to help me." "I said I'd lend it to you." That's not how I remember it. That's when I started to see the pattern. The requests weren't about need. They were about access, about normalizing the idea that my money was her money. Then came the house conversations. "Mom, this place is too big for you, and the maintenance costs must be killing you." "I'm managing fine." "But you're 70 years old. How much longer can you keep up with everything? The stairs, the yard work, the repairs." "I hire people for that." "Which costs money, money you could be enjoying instead of spending on house maintenance." "I like my house, Sarah. I just think maybe it's time to consider alternatives. Sell this place. Move into something smaller, closer to me, where I can help you." "I don't need help." "Not yet, but you will, and I'm just trying to plan ahead." Plan ahead. For my incapacity, for my decline, for my death. She wasn't seeing me as her mother anymore. She was seeing me as a resource with a countdown timer. That's when I started paying attention, really paying attention. I noticed she'd ask about my finances constantly. "How's your portfolio doing? Are you working with a good financial advisor? Have you thought about estate planning?" I noticed she'd suggest I sign things. "Mom, let me help you set up online banking. Just sign here. It'll make everything easier." I noticed she'd taken photos of everything in my house during her visits. Not casual snapshots, methodical documentation, room by room, every valuable item. She was inventorying. And then came the cruise incident, the trap I'd set. When I watched her walking through my house, measuring rooms, taking listing photos, I felt something die inside me. This wasn't grief. This wasn't worry. This wasn't even anger. It was clarity. My daughter didn't love me. She loved my assets. She was waiting, impatiently, for me to die or become incompetent so she could liquidate everything. And she'd apparently decided she couldn't wait any longer. That's when I called Mr. Evans. That's when I learned about irrevocable trusts. The beautiful thing about an irrevocable trust, he explained, is that once assets are in it, they're untouchable. Not by creditors, not by lawsuits, not by people with your power of attorney. The only person who can access trust assets is the trustee. Who's the trustee? You can be, initially, or you can name someone else. A bank, a trust company, a lawyer, someone you trust completely. Can Sarah be trustee? She can, but then she'd have access to everything, which defeats the purpose. So I make someone else trustee, someone who'll follow my instructions. Exactly. You set the terms. You decide what happens to the assets during your lifetime and after your death. Sarah gets nothing unless you say she gets something. What if I say she gets nothing? He looked at me seriously. Then she gets nothing. That's what irrevocable means. Once you set it up, it's set. She can't contest it, can't change it, can't touch it. Let's do it. We created the trust, named Mr. Evans's firm as trustee, transferred the house, moved $1.5 million into my personal investment account, money I could use however I wanted, money Sarah couldn't touch. And then I waited. Waited for Sarah to make her move. Waited to spring the trap. It took her exactly 4 weeks. Sarah called me on a Tuesday morning, her voice higher than usual, excited, almost manic. "Mom, great news! I found a buyer for the house." I was sitting on my deck with coffee, watching surfers. "What house?" "Your house, Mom, focus! I've been working on this for weeks. Found this couple from Arizona. They're cash buyers. They love the property. They're offering $1.5 million. We can close in 10 days. "Sarah, I never asked you to sell my house." "I know, but Mom, think about it. $1.5 million. You could live anywhere, do anything, and you wouldn't have to worry about maintenance or property taxes or any of it." "I don't want to sell." "Mom," her voice shifted, got that careful, condescending tone. "I know change is scary, but trust me on this. I've handled everything. The contracts are already signed." "You signed contracts to sell my house?" "I used the power of attorney. It's fine. It's legal. I'm looking out for you." "Sarah, a POA doesn't give you the right to sell my primary residence without my explicit consent." "My lawyer says it does." "Your lawyer is wrong." "Mom, don't fight me on this. The deal is done. The buyers are excited. I already accepted their deposit. We're closing next week. You need to start packing." I took a sip of my coffee. Let the silence stretch. "I'm not packing, Sarah, because you didn't sell my house." "What are you talking about?" "Come see me tomorrow. I'll explain everything. And Sarah, bring your lawyer. You're going to need one." I hung up before she could respond. The next day, Sarah arrived in the afternoon. She had a roller suitcase, planning to help me pack, I guess, and a folder full of documents. She found me on the deck, exactly where I'd been when we talked. "Mom, I don't understand why you're being difficult about this." "Sit down, Sarah." "I don't want to sit. I want to talk about the sale. The buyers are getting nervous. They're asking questions. You need to cooperate. Sit down." Something in my voice made her obey. She sat across from me, folder clutched in her lap. "Tell me about this sale," I said. "Walk me through what you did." I found a buyer through a real estate agent friend. They loved the house. I showed them photos, the layout, everything. They made an offer. I negotiated on your behalf. We settled at $1.5 million. I signed the purchase agreement using the power of attorney. They gave me a $100,000 deposit. "Where's the deposit now?" "In an escrow account. It'll be released at closing." "And where did you plan for the remaining $1.4 million to go?" She hesitated. "Into your account, obviously." "Obviously. Though we should talk about maybe putting some of it into investments I can help manage. For your future, for your protection." "There it is, for my protection." "Mom, what's wrong with wanting to protect you?" "Nothing, if that's actually what you wanted." I stood up, went inside, came back with my own folder, much thicker than hers. "Let me tell you what you actually did, Sarah. You committed fraud." "I did not. I have power of attorney. You used a POA to sign contracts selling property that you don't have authority to sell. The POA was created for medical decisions and emergency financial situations, not for selling my home without my knowledge or consent. My lawyer said, "Your lawyer is either incompetent or you lied to them about the situation. Either way, you're in trouble." I opened my folder, pulled out the first document. This is the deed to this house. Notice the date? 6 weeks ago. Notice the name? The Diana Morrison Irrevocable Trust. Sarah went pale. "I don't own this house anymore, Sarah. I haven't owned it for 6 weeks. I sold it to a trust I created. A trust you have no access to. A trust your power of attorney has no authority over." You can't do that." "I absolutely can, and I did." "But the POA means nothing when it comes to trust assets. You tried to sell property I don't own. That makes your contract void, legally meaningless, fraudulent." No. Sarah was shaking her head. "The buyers gave me $100,000, which you accepted under false pretenses. You represented yourself as having the authority to sell this property. You don't. That's fraud, Sarah." "I didn't know." "Ignorance isn't a defense. You should have verified ownership before signing contracts. Any real estate attorney would have told you that." "But I'm your daughter. You thought I was too old and stupid to protect myself. You thought you could manipulate me into giving up my home. You thought you could steal from me and call it protection." Tears were streaming down her face now. "Mom, please, help me fix this. The buyers are going to sue me. I could lose everything." "Yes, you could. That's called consequences." "You're really going to let me go down for this?" I looked at my daughter, my only child, crying and begging and still not understanding what she'd done wrong. "Let me ask you something, Sarah. When did you stop seeing me as your mother and start seeing me as a payday?" "I never." "Don't lie. Not now. We're past that." She went quiet, wiped her eyes. "I don't know," she whispered. "It happened gradually. I needed money. You had it. It seemed natural, like you should help me, like the house would be mine anyway, so what difference did it make when I got it?" "The difference is that I'm still alive. I'm still living here. This is still my home. And you tried to take it from me without even asking. I'm sorry." "Are you? Are you sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught?" She couldn't answer, couldn't lie anymore, but couldn't tell the truth either. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to tell those buyers the truth, that you made a mistake, that you don't have the authority to sell this property. You're going to return their deposit. I spent some of it. Then you're going to borrow it from someone, or take out a loan, or declare bankruptcy. I don't care, but you're going to make this right." "What if I can't?" "Then you'll face the legal consequences. Fraud is a serious crime, Sarah. You could go to prison." "You'd really let that happen? To your own daughter? You really tried to steal my house from your own mother. So yes, I'd let that happen." The look on her face, it was like she'd finally understood, finally seen what she'd become. "Get out," I said quietly. "Get out of my house. Fix your mess, and don't come back." "Mom," I said, "get out." She left, took her suitcase and her worthless contracts, and left. I sat back down on my deck, looked at the ocean, and felt free. For the first time in years, I felt completely, totally free. After Sarah left, I sat with Mr. Evans's folder, looking through the documents that had saved me. The irrevocable trust. It sounds complicated. It sounds like something only wealthy people need. But really, it's simple. It's a way to protect your assets from people who might want to take them, even if those people are your own children. Let me explain how it works, because understanding this might save someone listening right now. When you create an irrevocable trust, you're creating a legal entity, kind of like a company, but specifically designed to hold assets. You transfer property into the trust. The trust becomes the owner. you can still benefit from the assets. In my case, I'm the income beneficiary. I get to live in the house for the rest of my life. I get to use it, enjoy it, call it home. But I don't own it anymore. The trust does. This matters because of a legal principle. You can only give away or sell what you own. If you don't own it, you can't sell it. Sarah's power of attorney gave her authority over my assets, but it didn't give her authority over trust assets, because those assets aren't mine anymore. They belong to the trust. When I set up the trust with Mr. Evans, we were very specific about the terms. Diana, we need to decide what happens to the house after you pass, he said. Who inherits it? I don't know anymore. I always assumed Sarah. Do you still want it to go to Sarah after everything she's tried? I thought about that for a long time. No, not automatically. Maybe if she changes, if she proves herself, but I don't want it written in stone. Then we'll make it flexible. The trust can state that upon your death, the trustee has discretion to distribute assets to beneficiaries based on their demonstrated character and need. You can do that? Absolutely. Trusts can be as specific or as general as you want. We can say Sarah gets everything, or nothing, or something in between, depending on circumstances. What would you recommend? I'd recommend giving the trustee full discretion. That way, if Sarah turns herself around, if she genuinely changes and rebuilds your relationship, she can still inherit. But if she continues down this path, the assets can go elsewhere. Charity, other family members, however you want. What about now, while I'm alive? You're the income beneficiary. You get to use the house. If the trust sells the house, you get the proceeds. The trust exists to protect your interests during your lifetime. And Sarah can't touch any of it? Not a penny. Not the house, not the proceeds if it's sold, not anything in the trust. What if she tries to challenge it? She can try. She'll lose. Irrevocable trusts are nearly impossible to break. That's why they're called irrevocable. Once they're set up, they're permanent. We'd set it up perfectly. Every detail carefully planned. The trust owned the house. I had the right to live there. Mr. Evans's law firm was the trustee, meaning they made decisions about trust assets, but only according to the terms I'd set. And those terms said Sarah got nothing unless she earned it. After she left that day, after our confrontation, I called Mr. Evans. She did it. She tried to sell the house. I'm not surprised. Did you tell her about the trust? I showed her the documents, explained everything. She's panicking now. The buyers gave her a $100,000 deposit that she's spent. She spent it already? Apparently. Then she's in serious trouble. Fraud, breach of contract. The buyers could sue her for damages. Good. He was quiet for a moment. Diana, I know she's your daughter. Are you sure you want to let this play out? I'm sure. She needs to face consequences. She tried to steal my home, Evans. My home. I know. I just wanted to make sure you've thought through what this means. She could lose everything, end up in significant legal trouble. She created this situation. She can deal with the consequences. All right, I'll support whatever you decide. Do you want me to reach out to her, explain the legal situation? No, let her figure it out on her own. Maybe she'll learn something. But I underestimated how desperate Sarah would become. 3 days later, she showed up at my house again. This time with her lawyer, a man in an expensive suit who looked annoyed to be there. Mrs. Morrison, I'm Darren Fletcher. I represent your daughter, Sarah. We need to discuss this situation. What situation? The sale of this property. There seems to be some confusion about ownership. No confusion. I don't own it. The trust does. Therefore, Sarah had no authority to sell it. Her contract is void. Mrs. Morrison, with all due respect, this seems like a very convenient timing. Creating a trust just weeks before your daughter exercised her legal authority to help you. To help me? She tried to sell my house without telling me. She was acting in your best interests. My best interests would have been asking me first. This was fraud. Sarah jumped in. Mom, please, let's work this out. The buyers are threatening to sue. I need your help. I don't help people who try to steal from me. I wasn't stealing. I was trying to help you liquidate assets. By taking a $100,000 deposit and spending it? Fletcher cleared his throat. Mrs. Morrison, my client made some errors in judgment, but surely we can come to an arrangement. If you could speak with the buyers, explain the situation, perhaps work out a settlement. No. Excuse me? I'm not involved in Sarah's fraud. She created this mess. She can clean it up. You're her mother, and she tried to rob me. Those facts don't cancel each other out. Fletcher and Sarah left after 15 more minutes of futile arguing. I stood my ground. 2 days later, the buyers sued Sarah for fraud and breach of contract. They wanted their deposit back plus damages. Sarah called me, crying. Mom, they're suing me for $200,000. I don't have that kind of money. Then you'll have to figure something out. You have to help me. Why would I help someone who tried to steal my house? Because I'm your daughter. Start acting like it then. Start treating me like your mother instead of your retirement plan. She hung up. I didn't hear from her again for 3 months. 3 months of silence. 3 months of wondering if I'd done the right thing. 3 months of second-guessing myself in the middle of the night. Was I being too harsh? Should I have helped her? Was I punishing her too severely for one mistake? But then I'd remember, it wasn't one mistake. It was years of treating me like an ATM, years of seeing me as a resource instead of a person, years of waiting impatiently for me to die so she could cash in. The attempted sale was just the culmination of a long pattern of exploitation. Still, she was my daughter. The silence hurt. I tried to fill my days, morning walks, book club, volunteering at the senior center. But there was always this ache, this hole where my daughter used to be. Mr. Evans checked in regularly. How are you holding up? Some days better than others. Have you heard from Sarah? Nothing. You? Her lawyer contacted me once, asked if we'd consider settling with the buyers on Sarah's behalf. I said no. He didn't call back. What do you think will happen? Honestly, she'll probably have to declare bankruptcy. The buyers want their money. She can't pay. Bankruptcy might be her only option. She'll hate me for that. She should hate herself. She created this situation. I know. Doesn't make it easier. One evening, I was sitting on my deck watching the sunset when my neighbor Carol came over. Diana, I need to tell you something. It's about Sarah. My heart jumped. Is she okay? I don't know. I ran into her at the grocery store yesterday. She looked rough, stressed. She asked about you. What did she say? She asked if you seemed happy, if you were doing okay, if you ever mentioned her. What did you tell her? I said you seemed content, that you stay busy, that you've seemed more at peace lately than you did a few months ago. How did she react? She started crying right there in the produce section, said she'd ruined everything, that she didn't know how to fix it. She could start by apologizing. I told her that. She said she didn't think you'd listen. She's probably right. But Carol's words stuck with me. Sarah crying in the grocery store, asking about me, maybe feeling something resembling remorse. A week later, I got an email from her. Subject line, I'm sorry. I stared at it for 10 minutes before opening it. Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I deserve forgiveness. But I need you to know I'm sorry. I'm sorry for trying to sell your house. I'm sorry for using the POA without your knowledge. I'm sorry for treating you like an asset instead of a person. I'm sorry for every time I prioritized your money over our relationship. I've been going to therapy. My therapist helped me see patterns I couldn't see before. How I'd commodified you. How I'd been counting down the days until you died so I could inherit. How sick that is. The buyers are suing me. I'll probably have to declare bankruptcy. I'm losing my apartment. My credit is destroyed. Everything is falling apart. And you know what? I deserve it. I deserve all of it. But more than the financial consequences, what kills me is knowing I destroyed our relationship, that I might never get you back, that you might die someday without us having resolved this. I'm not asking you to help me financially. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking you to know I finally understand what I did, and I'm sorry. Your daughter, Sarah. I read it 3 times, looking for manipulation, looking for the angle, looking for the hidden request for money. I couldn't find one. It seemed genuine. I showed it to Mr. Evans. What do you think? I think she's facing consequences and feeling sorry for herself. You think it's fake? I think it's probably genuine in the moment. Whether it lasts once her circumstances improve is another question. So I shouldn't respond? That's your choice. But if you do respond, be cautious. Set boundaries. Don't let your guard down just because she wrote a nice email. I thought about it for 2 days. Then I replied, Sarah, thank you for your email. I appreciate the apology. I need you to understand something. What you did wasn't just a mistake. It was a betrayal. You tried to take my home, the place where I've lived for 30 years, where your father died, where all my memories are. You didn't ask me, didn't discuss it, just decided you knew better and forged ahead. That tells me you don't see me as a person with agency. You see me as someone to manage, someone who can't make her own decisions. I'm 72, not senile. I'm capable. I'm autonomous. I'm allowed to live in my own home for as long as I want. If you want to rebuild our relationship, it starts with respecting that. Respecting me, seeing me as a person, not an inheritance waiting to happen. I'm not ready to see you yet, but I'm willing to consider it eventually, if you prove you've actually changed. Mom. She replied within an hour. I understand. I'll prove it. However long it takes, I'll prove I've changed. Thank you for giving me a chance, even a small one. Love, Sarah. And then, nothing. She didn't ask for money, didn't push to visit, didn't try to manipulate me into helping her with her legal problems. Just respected my boundaries. It was a start, a tiny start, but a start. Over the next few months, she'd send occasional updates. Declared bankruptcy today, it's official, starting over from zero. Found a studio apartment. It's small, but it's mine. Got a second job, working retail on weekends to make ends meet. She was rebuilding, not asking for help, not expecting me to save her, just rebuilding. And slowly, very slowly, I started to soften. Not enough to forgive completely, not enough to change the trust, but enough to hope. Hope that maybe, eventually, we could have some kind of relationship again. Hope that my daughter was finally learning the lesson she needed to learn. That people are more valuable than property. That relationships matter more than inheritances. That respect can't be bypassed with legal documents. It would take time, years probably, but maybe there was a path forward. A path that didn't involve me dying first. A year after the confrontation, Sarah asked if she could visit. Just for an hour, her email said. I want to see you, show you I'm different, no expectations. If you say no, I understand. I said yes, nervously, unsure if I was making a mistake. She arrived on a Saturday afternoon. I barely recognized her. She'd lost weight, the good kind, from stress and hard work rather than lifestyle. Her clothes were simple, Target, not Nordstrom. Her car was older, practical. She looked tired, humbled, changed. Hi, Mom. Hi, Sarah. We sat on the deck. I made tea. We didn't talk for a few minutes, just sat there, looking at the ocean. Your house is beautiful, she said finally. I'd forgotten how peaceful it is here. It's home. It's your home. I had no right to try to take it. No, you didn't. I've been thinking a lot about what I did. Not just trying to sell the house, everything. Years of seeing you as a source of money instead of a person. And I'm ashamed, genuinely ashamed. I don't know how I became that person. Gradually, it happens gradually. My therapist says I have something called financial enmeshment. I started equating my financial stability with your assets. Started thinking your money was my money. Lost all boundaries. That's accurate. She also says I dehumanized you, stopped seeing you as mom and started seeing you as wealthy elderly mother who should help me. Also accurate. I'm sorry, Mom. I know I've said it before, but I mean it. I'm so, so sorry. I looked at her, really looked at her. She had tears in her eyes. Her hands were shaking slightly. Tell me about your life now, I said. Your real life, not what you think I want to hear. She told me everything. The bankruptcy, the credit score in the 400s, the studio apartment with roaches, the 2 jobs, administrative assistant during the week, retail on weekends, the used car that barely ran, the beans and rice budget. It's humbling, she said. I used to judge people who lived like this, thought they were failures. Now, I'm one of them. And you know what? It's not so bad. I'm poor, but I'm not a thief. That's an improvement. What happened with the buyers, the lawsuit? Settled in bankruptcy. They got nothing. My lawyer, nothing. I walked away with literally nothing except massive debt that got discharged. Started over at 43 years old with an empty apartment and no savings. That must be hard. It's character building, she laughed. It wasn't bitter, just real. Mom, can I ask you something? Yes. Do you think you'll ever trust me again? I thought about that. I don't know. Trust takes time to build. You destroyed 30 years of trust in a single action. Rebuilding will take years. I understand. But I'm willing to try if you keep showing me you've changed. Keep respecting my boundaries. Keep being honest. We might get there. I will. I promise. We talked for 2 hours. She told me about therapy, about the exercises her therapist had her do, about writing letters of apology to everyone she'd hurt, not just me. I sent one to Dad, she said, to his grave. Apologized for trying to steal Mom's house. Apologized for dishonoring his memory by treating you like an asset instead of a person. It sounds crazy, but it helped. It's not crazy. When she left, she hugged me. A real hug, not the obligation hug she'd been giving me for years. I love you, Mom, and I'm going to prove I've changed, however long it takes. I believe you're trying. That's enough for now. After she left, I called Mr. Evans. Sarah visited today. How did it go? Better than expected. She seems genuinely changed. Changed enough to modify the trust? No, not yet, maybe not ever. But changed enough that I don't hate her anymore. That's progress. It is. Painful progress, but progress. Over the next year, Sarah visited once a month, always respectful, always calling first, never asking for money, never pushing boundaries. She'd bring small gifts, nothing expensive, a book she thought I'd like, flowers from the grocery store, a homemade card. We'd have tea on the deck, talk about life, her progress in therapy, my activities, the weather, normal things, mother-daughter things. It was nice, tentative, careful, but nice. One visit, about 18 months after the confrontation, she brought up the trust. Mom, I want you to know I don't expect to inherit the house anymore. Whatever you've decided to do with it, I support it. I haven't decided yet. That's okay. It's yours to decide, not mine. I gave up my right to an opinion when I tried to steal it. You don't want to know what's in the trust? Not really. I mean, I'm curious, human nature. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're comfortable, that you feel secure, that you're happy. I am happy. For the first time in years, I'm genuinely happy. Good. That's all I want. Your happiness, not your house. That conversation marked a shift, a real shift. Sarah wasn't performing anymore, wasn't trying to manipulate her way back into the will. She genuinely let go. And paradoxically, that letting go made me start considering letting her back in. 2 years after the confrontation, I called Mr. Evans. I want to revise the trust. To include Sarah? To give the trustee more specific guidance about Sarah. Meaning, if she continues on her current path, respectful, boundaried, genuinely changed, I want her to inherit the house, but with conditions. What kind of conditions? She can't sell it for at least 5 years. If she does, the proceeds go to charity. I want her to have a home, not a windfall. A place to live, not a jackpot to cash in. That's doable. What else? I want to leave her a letter, to be read only after I'm gone, explaining everything. Why I did, what I learned, what I hope she learned. I can attach that to the trust documents. And Evans? I want to leave some money to the senior center, the one I volunteer at. They need funding. They help people like me, people whose families see them as burdens instead of blessings. How much? Half the value of the house. Sarah gets the house itself. The charity gets the equivalent value in cash. You're sure? That's very generous. I'm sure. I want my legacy to be more than just property transfer. I want it to mean something. We revised the trust, drew up new documents, everything legal and binding. I didn't tell Sarah. She'd find out when I died. For now, it was between me and Evans and the legal documents. But it felt right. It felt like I'd found balance. Protecting myself while still showing love. Setting boundaries while still maintaining connection. That's what parents are supposed to do, right? Teach consequences, but also forgive growth. 3 years after the confrontation, Sarah's life had stabilized. She'd gotten promoted at her day job, quit the retail gig, moved into a decent one-bedroom apartment, paid off her post-bankruptcy debt. She was rebuilding, slowly, sustainably. And our relationship was rebuilding too. She'd come for dinner once a week now. We'd cook together, talk, laugh, have a real mother-daughter relationship. You seem happier, Mom, she said one evening. I am. The past few years have been good for me. I'm sorry it took me trying to steal your house for you to find happiness. I'm not. The crisis forced me to protect myself, to set boundaries, to realize I could choose how I wanted to live. And you chose the trust. I chose security. The trust gave me that. Can I ask, what's in it? Where does the house go when I die? Yeah, you'll find out when the time comes. That's all I'll say. Fair enough. I hope I've earned back some trust. Not inheritance trust, relationship trust. You have, more than you know. 4 years after the confrontation, Sarah met someone, a man named David. Blue collar, worked in construction. Solid, stable, kind. She brought him to meet me. I liked him immediately. Your mom's house is amazing, David said, looking at the ocean view. It's her sanctuary, Sarah said. Her home, it's important to her. I can see why. I'd never want to leave a place like this. Neither would she. That's why she's staying. The way she said it, with respect, with understanding, with no hint of resentment, told me she'd really changed. Later, after David left, Sarah and I sat on the deck. I like him, I said. Me too. He's good for me, keeps me grounded. Have you told him about what you did? Everything. The attempted sale, the fraud, the consequences. He was shocked, but he appreciated the honesty. What did he say? He said everyone has a moment where they could go one way or another, a fork in the road. And I chose wrong, but then I chose right. That's what matters. He's wise. He is. Mom, I want you to know, if David and I get serious, if we end up together long term, I'm not expecting anything from you. No down payment for a house, no financial help, nothing. We'll build our own life. I know, that's why I'd actually be happy to help. What? When people earn it, when they respect boundaries, I'm generous. It's when people expect it and demand it that I shut down. I don't expect anything. I know, that's why you've earned back my trust. 5 years after the confrontation, Sarah got married. Small wedding, beach ceremony. I officiated, got ordained online just for the occasion. It was perfect, simple, full of love. At the reception, Sarah gave a speech. My mom taught me the most important lesson of my life. She taught me that people are more valuable than property, that relationships matter more than inheritances, that you can't love someone while also waiting for them to die so you can cash in. She looked at me, tears streaming. 5 years ago, I tried to steal my mother's house. I used legal documents to commit fraud. I betrayed her trust in the worst possible way, and she could have abandoned me completely, cut me off forever, let me drown in the consequences of my actions. Instead, she let me earn my way back. Slowly, painfully, over years. She set boundaries, she protected herself, but she also left the door open for redemption. Mom, thank you. Thank you for loving me enough to let me fail. Thank you for protecting yourself. Thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. Thank you for being you. I cried. Everyone cried. It was the most healing moment I'd experienced in years. After the wedding, Sarah and David came to visit. Mom, we want to show you something. They pulled out house listings. We're buying a place, nothing fancy, a starter home. We saved up the down payment ourselves. We wanted you to see, we're doing this on our own. We're building our own life. I'm proud of you. Will you come see it when we close? Give us your blessing? Of course. As they left, Sarah hugged me tight. I love you, Mom, and I promise I'll never take you for granted again. I know, sweetheart. I know. Later that night, I called Mr. Evans. She's really changed. I can see that. The trust revisions, they stand? They stand. Sarah gets the house when you pass, with the 5-year sale restriction. Half the value goes to the senior center. The letter explains everything. Good. That feels right. Diana, you did something remarkable. You protected yourself without destroying your daughter. You held boundaries while allowing growth. That's rare. I had good legal advice. You had good instincts. The law just gave you the tools. 5 years. 5 years from crisis to redemption, from betrayal to healing. The trust had saved me. But more than that, it had taught both of us what really mattered. Not property, not inheritance, not money, but respect, boundaries, and love that doesn't come with a price tag. I sat down to write the letter that would be attached to my trust documents. The letter Sarah would read only after I was gone. It took me 3 weeks to write. I'd start, then stop, delete everything, start again. How do you distill a lifetime of lessons into a few pages? But eventually, it came together. Here's what I wrote. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And the house, this beautiful Malibu beach house that caused so much pain and ultimately so much growth, is yours. I want to explain why, and why I structured the trust the way I did, and what I hope you learned from all of this. 5 years ago, you tried to sell this house without my knowledge or consent. You used a power of attorney I'd given you for emergencies to commit fraud. You betrayed my trust in the most fundamental way. I could have cut you off completely. Many people advised me to. She doesn't deserve to inherit, they said. She tried to steal from you. Let her face permanent consequences. But I couldn't do that, because despite everything, you're still my daughter, and I still believed in redemption. So I created an irrevocable trust. I protected myself legally. I made sure you couldn't try again. But I also left room for hope. I left room for you to change, to grow, to become the person I always believed you could be. And you did. Over 5 painful years, you rebuilt yourself. You went to therapy. You faced your bankruptcy. You worked 2 jobs. You learned to respect boundaries. You proved that people can change if they want to badly enough. That's why you're inheriting this house. Not because you're my daughter, biology isn't enough, but because you earned it. You proved you understood what you did wrong. You showed genuine remorse. You changed your behavior. You rebuilt our relationship on healthier foundations. This house is yours now, but there are conditions. I've placed a 5-year restriction on selling it. If you sell within 5 years, the proceeds go to charity. Why? Because I want you to have a home, not a windfall. I want you to live here, to make memories, to understand why I fought so hard to protect this place. This house isn't just an asset. It's where your father died, where we spent 30 years building a life, where I found peace after he was gone. It's sacred space. Treat it accordingly. I'm also leaving half the value of the house to the senior center where I volunteered. They help elderly people whose families treat them the way you treated me, as obstacles between them and an inheritance. I want my legacy to support them, to help other elderly people protect themselves, to fund programs that teach families about financial elder abuse. You might resent that half your inheritance is going to charity. If you do, you haven't learned as much as I thought. But I don't think you'll resent it. I think you'll understand. I think you'll be proud that your mother's legacy is helping others. Sarah, I forgave you. Truly forgave you. Not immediately. Forgiveness took years. But I got there. I forgave you because I saw you change, saw you struggle, saw you become someone better. That's what love does. It holds people accountable while also leaving room for growth. It sets boundaries while maintaining connection. It protects itself while allowing redemption. I hope you've learned these lessons. People are more valuable than property, always. You can't love someone while also waiting for them to die so you can inherit. Respect is non-negotiable. Without respect, relationships die. Consequences are necessary. They teach us what words cannot. Change is possible, but only for people who genuinely want to change. Trust, once broken, takes years to rebuild, and that's appropriate. Easy forgiveness teaches nothing. Legal protections aren't about hate, they're about self-respect. I created the trust because I loved myself enough to protect myself. You taught me something too. You taught me that I'd been too soft, too willing to sacrifice myself for family, too afraid of setting boundaries because I didn't want to lose you. The irony is that creating the trust, setting the hardest boundary of my life, is what saved our relationship, because it forced you to confront who you'd become, forced you to change, forced you to earn back what you'd taken for granted. So thank you. Thank you for failing in a way that made you grow. Thank you for being strong enough to face yourself. Thank you for becoming someone I'm proud to leave this house to. Take care of it, Sarah. Fill it with love. Make it a home, not just an asset. Let it remind you that the best things in life can't be stolen. They have to be earned. I love you. I always have. Even when I was protecting myself from you. Even when I was setting boundaries. Even when I was letting you face consequences. Love doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. Love means caring enough to let people grow, even when that growth is painful. You grew, my darling. You became someone your father would be proud of, someone I'm proud of. Enjoy the house. Enjoy the view. Enjoy the peace it brings. And remember, the greatest inheritance I am leaving you isn't property. It's the lesson that character matters more than assets, that who you are is more important than what you own. You're a good person now, Sarah. You weren't always, but you are now. That's the real inheritance. Everything else is just details. With all my love, Mom. I sealed the letter, gave it to Mr. Evans. Attach this to the trust documents. She reads it after I'm gone, not before. Diana, this is beautiful. It's honest. That's more important than beautiful. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her, now that she's become someone worth having. The letter was done. The trust was finalized. Everything was in place. I could live the rest of my life in peace, knowing that whether I died tomorrow or in 20 years, everything was handled. Sarah would inherit the house, but only because she'd earned it. The senior center would get funding, elderly people would be protected, and my legacy would be more than just property transfer. It would be a lesson in boundaries, consequences, growth, and redemption. That felt right. That felt complete. I was ready for whatever came next. I lived another 8 years after creating the trust. 8 good years. Maybe the best years of my life. Sarah and David bought their starter home, had twins, my grandchildren, built a life I was proud to be part of. They'd visit every Sunday. The twins would play on the beach while Sarah and I had coffee on the deck. Mom, you seem so content, Sarah said one morning. I am. I finally figured out how to live for myself. Instead of for me, you mean. Instead of for anyone else's expectations. I spent 64 years being what other people needed. Now I'm just being Diana. It's liberating. I'm sorry I took so long to let you be Diana. You were on your own journey. We both were. The twins, Emma and Jack, called me Graham. They'd asked to hear stories about their grandfather, about their mother when she was young, about the house. "Why do you love this house so much, Graham?" Emma asked once. "Because it's mine. Not in the legal sense, the trust owns it, but in the important sense. It's where I chose to be, where I fought to stay, where I'm free." "What's the trust?" "It's a legal thing that protected me from people who wanted to take my house away. Like bad guys? Like people who loved money more than they loved me, until they learned better." Emma looked at Sarah. "Was it you, Mommy?" Sarah smiled sadly. "Yes, honey, it was me. I did something really wrong, and Graham taught me how to be better. Are you better now?" "I'm trying to be, every day." As I got older, I slowed down, stopped volunteering as much, spent more time just sitting on my deck, watching the ocean, remembering. I thought about James, about our 30 years together, about how he'd loved this house. I thought about Sarah, about the crisis that had broken us and then remade us into something stronger. I thought about the trust, how a legal document had saved my home and taught my daughter lessons she'd never have learned any other way. At 80, I was diagnosed with heart disease. Nothing immediately life-threatening, but a reminder that time was finite. I called Sarah. "I want to make sure you understand the trust before I'm gone." "Mom, don't talk like that." "Sarah, I'm 80. I've had a good run. Let's be practical." We spent an afternoon going over everything: the trust documents, the letter I'd written, the conditions, the charity bequest. "Half goes to the senior center?" she asked. "Half the value. You get the house itself. They get the equivalent in cash." "That's fair, more than fair. They did so much for you." "They protected me when I needed protection. This is how I pay that forward." "And I can't sell for 5 years?" "Correct. I want you to live here, to understand why it matters. If you absolutely must sell after 5 years, fine. But give it a chance first." "I will. David loves it here. The twins love it here. We'll make it our home." "Good. That's all I want." "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Do you forgive me? Really, truly forgive me?" I took her hand. "I forgave you years ago, sweetheart. The moment you stopped trying to manipulate your way back in. The moment you genuinely changed. I forgave you." "Thank you. That means everything." "You earned it. That's the point. Forgiveness isn't automatic. It's earned through changed behavior. You changed, so I forgave. I'll take care of this place, I promise. I'll honor what it meant to you." "I know you will." At 81, I fell, broke my hip. The recovery was slow. I moved temporarily into assisted living for the rehab. "This is just temporary," I told Sarah. "I'm going back to my house." "Mom, maybe it's time to consider—" "No, I'm going back." "Okay, you're going back." And I did. 3 months later, hip healed, I went home. Sarah hired a caregiver to check on me daily. But I lived independently, in my house, on my terms. At 82, I woke up one morning and knew. Just knew. The way old people sometimes do. This was it. My time was coming soon. I called Sarah. "Come over today, bring the twins." "Is everything okay?" "Everything's perfect. I just want to see you." They came. We spent the day on the deck, watching the ocean, talking, laughing, remembering. "This house holds so many memories," I said. "It does, and it will hold more. We'll make new memories here, good ones." "You promise?" "I promise, Mom. We'll honor this place, honor you, honor what you fought to protect." That's all I needed to hear. That night, I sat alone on the deck one last time. The ocean was calm, the stars were bright, everything was peaceful. I thought about my life, the joys, the sorrows, the mistakes, the corrections. I thought about the trust, how it had saved me, taught Sarah, protected what mattered most. I thought about redemption, how even our biggest failures can lead to our most important lessons. I was ready to let go, ready to trust that everything would be okay. The house would go to Sarah. She'd earned it. She'd honor it. The charity would be funded. Elderly people would be protected. My legacy would live on, not in property, but in lessons learned. 3 days later, I died peacefully in my sleep, in my house, surrounded by memories, at peace with all of it. And Sarah, when she read my letter, understood everything I'd tried to teach her. The most valuable inheritance isn't money or property, it's wisdom, character, the strength to set boundaries, the courage to change. That's what I left her, and it was worth more than any house could ever be. I wasn't there for this part, obviously, but Mr. Evans told me, before I died, we'd talked about what would happen. And later, Sarah told her children. So this is how it went. The day after I died, Mr. Evans called Sarah and David. Please come to my office. We need to read Diana's trust documents and her letter. They arrived, nervous, grieving, uncertain what they'd find. Mr. Evans was gentle. First, Sarah, I'm sorry for your loss. Your mother was remarkable. Thank you, she really was. Let me start by explaining what's in the trust. Then I'll give you her letter. She wanted the letter read last, after you understood the legal structure. He explained it all. The house was Sarah's, with the 5-year sale restriction. Half the value going to the senior center. The conditions, the reasons. Sarah cried through the whole explanation. She left me the house. After everything I did, she left me the house. She did, because you earned it. She watched you change over 8 years. She saw genuine transformation. That's why you're inheriting. And the senior center gets approximately $750,000. That will fund their elder protection programs for years. Your mother wanted her legacy to protect others. That's perfect. That's exactly what she would want. Then Evans handed her the letter. Read this when you're ready. Take your time. There's no rush. Sarah and David went home, put the twins to bed, sat together on their couch. Sarah opened the letter. She read it aloud to David, crying through most of it. The parts about betrayal, about consequences, about redemption, about becoming someone worthy of inheritance. She forgave me, Sarah said. Really, truly forgave me. She did more than forgive you, David said. She believed in you, believed you could change, and you proved her right. I almost destroyed everything, almost lost her completely. But you didn't. You chose differently. That's what matters. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and David prepared to move into the Malibu house, to make it their home, to honor Diana's legacy. The senior center held a memorial service for me. Sarah attended, met the people I'd helped, the elderly men and women who'd been protected from exploitation by programs I'd funded. Your mother saved my life, one woman told Sarah. My son was trying to take everything. Diana's donations funded the lawyer who helped me stop him. Your mother understood, another said. She'd been there. She knew what it felt like to have families see you as an asset instead of a person. Sarah realized her betrayal had led to my advocacy. My pain had become my purpose. And now my legacy would continue that purpose. She set up a regular donation to the senior center, in memory of Diana Morrison, to continue her work protecting elderly people from financial exploitation. Emma and Jack, the twins, asked questions. Why are we moving to Graham's house? Because Graham wanted us to have it. She fought very hard to protect it. Now it's ours to protect. Did you really try to steal it? Sarah took a breath. Yes, I did something very wrong. I tried to sell Graham's house without her permission. It was one of the worst things I've ever done. But you're not bad now, right? I'm trying not to be. I learned from my mistake. That's what Graham wanted, for me to learn and grow and become better. We'll take good care of the house, Jack promised, for Graham. Yes, we will. They moved in 3 months after I died. Sarah stood on the deck, my deck, and cried. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry for what I did, but I promise I'll honor this place. I'll honor you. I'll teach Emma and Jack what you taught me. She kept her promise. The house became a home, full of love, full of memories, full of lessons about what really matters. Sarah became an advocate. She started speaking at senior centers about financial elder abuse, telling her story, warning others. "I tried to steal my mother's house," she'd say. "I used legal documents to commit fraud against my own mother, and she could have cut me off forever. Instead, she protected herself while also leaving room for redemption." She taught me that boundaries aren't about hate, they're about self-respect. That consequences teach what words cannot. That people can change if they genuinely want to. My inheritance wasn't the house, it was the lesson. And that lesson is worth more than any property. People would come up after her talks, elderly people, adult children, all struggling with similar dynamics. How do I protect myself without destroying the relationship? You do what my mother did. You create legal protections. You set firm boundaries. But you also leave room for growth. You make people earn their way back in. What if they don't change? Then you've still protected yourself. That's the point. You can't control whether they change. You can only control whether you protect yourself. 5 years after I died, the sale restriction expired. Sarah could legally sell the house now. David asked her, "Do you want to? It's worth over $2 million now. We could take the money, buy something bigger." "No. This is home. This is where Mom fought to stay. This is where she taught me everything that matters. We're staying." I was hoping you'd say that. They stayed, raised the twins there. Eventually, Emma and Jack grew up, went to college, started their own lives. And they understood that their grandmother had been remarkable, that she'd protected herself while also allowing redemption, that she'd taught lessons that couldn't be taught any other way. Sarah is 70 now, still living in the Malibu house, the house I protected with an irrevocable trust, the house that taught us both everything we needed to know. She sits on the deck, my deck, and thinks about me, about trust, about boundaries, about redemption, about how sometimes the most loving thing you can do is protect yourself, even from your own children, about how consequences teach what words cannot, about how people can change, but only if you hold them accountable. That's my legacy, not property, not money, but wisdom earned through pain and passed down through generations. The irrevocable trust saved my house, but more than that, it saved my relationship with my daughter, because it forced her to become someone worthy of inheriting, someone who understood that people matter more than property, that respect is non-negotiable, that love doesn't mean sacrifice, it means holding boundaries while maintaining hope. That's what I want you to take from my story. You can protect yourself and still love people. You can set hard boundaries and still allow redemption. You can hold people accountable and still forgive growth. The trust wasn't about punishment. It was about protection and possibility. Protect yourself, but leave room for people to grow. That's love. Real, complicated, difficult, worth it love. That's the inheritance I left, and it was worth more than any house could ever be. If someone in your life is treating you as an asset instead of a person, protect yourself. Create legal boundaries. Set firm limits. Don't sacrifice your security for people who don't respect you. But also leave room for change, for growth, for redemption. People can become better if they genuinely want to. That's the balance. Protection without permanent rejection. Boundaries without burned bridges. It's hard. It's painful, but it's possible. And sometimes it's exactly what both people need.